Hey, Byron, are we ready? Or Larry? Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. At this time, I would like to call to order the Winston-Salem Urban Area Metropolitan Planning Organization Technical Coordinating Committee meeting. And I will start our meeting with the virtual statement, basically stating, due to the Safer at Home order issued by Governor Cooper, members of the Transportation Coordinating Committee are participating virtually. All members will vote by roll call. A member will be recognized, and at that time, the member will state his or her vote on any item we're voting on. I will now ask our recording secretary, Kirk Erickson, to call the roll.
Thank you, Tanique. I'll go through everyone that I'm aware is representing a jurisdiction, and if I don't include you, please just let me know. Kelly Bennett? Tanique?
Present.
Suzette Morales?
Here.
Daryl Vreeland?
Daryl said he's having some connectivity issues, but he's there. I can see that.
Okay. Pat Ivy? Thought I saw Pat earlier. Fred, do you know if Pat is with us? All right, moving on. Kelly Garvin?
Here.
Lee Rollins?
Here.
Chris Jensen?
Present.
Stacy Tolbert? Stacy, are you with us?
Yes.
Scott Leonard?
Here.
Donna Woodson?
Here.
And I saw a few names I wasn't familiar with. Did I miss anyone else who's here to represent an entity?
Megan Garner, Town of Rural Hall.
Okay, Megan, I must have missed you. I thought I had you.
That's okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So at this time, we will go to our first item, which is our public comment period. Was there anyone that had joined the meeting for public comment that you are aware of, Kurt?
Nobody's reached out to me prior to the meeting. Again, there's a few folks that I'm not familiar with their names. So if anyone's here for public comment, please identify yourself at this point. Sounds like we don't have any, Tanique.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to our next item, which is the election of officers. Annually, we elect individuals to serve as chairman and vice chairman of this committee. And at this time, I will open the floor for the nomination of names for chairman and vice chairman. Currently, the individual serving in that capacity, in case you're not aware, I'm serving as chairman, and then Jeff Fansler, our deputy director, is serving as vice chairman. So I will open the floor for candidates at this time.
This is Donna Woodson. I would like to nominate Tanique McCullum for chairman of the TCC.
Lee Rollins seconds that motion.
All right, thank you, Donna and Lee. Are there any other nominations?
Tanique, I'd like to nominate Jeff Fansler for the vice chair.
Donna Woodson, I would like to second that nomination for Jeff Fansler, if I can get his name out correctly, as the vice chair.
All right, thank you. So, hearing no other nominations, then I will close the nominations and we will vote on those positions separately. So first for the vice chair, Tanique McCullough has been nominated as chairman. It's kind of odd saying that. So at this time, Kirk, if you will call the roll for the vote, please.
Kelly Bennett. I guess, Tanique, procedurally, I guess you're allowed to vote.
Yes.
Suzette,
I don't get to vote.
Daryl, I guess Daryl's still having technical challenges. Is Pat or Fred back on the call yet?
They're not. They just texted me that the internet is down at their office, so I just gave them the call-in number.
All right, Kelly, your vote.
Yes.
Kirk votes yes. Lee Rollins,
Yes.
Chris Jensen,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Megan Garner,
Yes.
Scott Leonard,
Yes.
and Donna.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And thank you all for giving me this opportunity again. And then it has been moved that Jeff Fansler for vice chair. So at this time, Kirk, if you will call the roll for the vote for vice chair.
Tanique,
Yes.
Daryl, Kelly, Garvin,
Yes.
Kirk votes yes. Lee Rollins,
Yes.
Chris Jensen,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
and Donna.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. All right, we do have quite a full agenda today, so I will be moving through these as quickly as I can, I guess. So our next item will be the consideration of the November 19th, 2020 TAC meeting minutes. Hopefully you all have had an opportunity to review the minutes. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the November 19th minutes?
This is Donna Woodson. I would make a motion to approve the TCC minutes from the November 19th, 2020 meeting, providing there's no necessary corrections needed and providing I get a second.
All right, so Donna has moved to accept the minutes. Is there a second?
Stacy Talbert, second.
Thank you, Stacy. All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that we accept the minutes as they are. Can we have a vote, please, Kirk?
Kelly Bennett,
Yes.
Tanique,
Yes.
Daryl, Pat or Fred, are you back in yet? Kelly Garvin,
Yes.
Kirk votes yes. Lee Rollins,
Yes.
Chris Jensen,
Yes.
Stacy voted yes. Megan,
Yes.
Scott Leonard,
Yes.
and Donna voted yes. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, our next item will be the consideration of amendments to the 2020 Comprehensive Transportation Plan for the Winston-Salem Urban Area MPO. There will be a public hearing at the TAC meeting. However, Byron, if you could present the information for this committee, please.
No problem. Good afternoon, everyone. As you all know, over the past several months, we've been updating or working on the updates for the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, our Comprehensive Transportation Plan, as well as our congestion management process. These documents outline our desires for our transportation network over the next 20 to 25 years. And these plans are multimodal in that they include everything from highway, bicycle, and pedestrian to public transportation. We have been updating the CTP using the new state's CTP 2.0 characteristic systems, which outlines different characteristics for roadways, facility improvements, as well as other categories that we incorporate into this plan. UHB has been leading the effort on this plan update, and they will be presenting to everyone the plan, as well as reviewing the public comments that was received during our public comment period. As it was mentioned, today is a public hearing for this document. The public comment period lasted from December 21st, 2020 till today, January 21st, 2021. And I will turn it over to Lupa. We're not hearing you. No.
We can't hear you.
Okay. She's going to call in.
She's about to call in. Sorry, everyone, if we could just give her a few minutes.
Sorry, everybody. I had some kind of, this is Daryl, DOT. I had some kind of computer problem, but just rebooted and I'm back in.
Welcome, Daryl. We're having a few technical issues here, so we're waiting for Luba to call in.
Great. I'm glad it's not just me.
It's a virtual meeting. Expect technical issues.
I want these IT people to explain how my computer works fine all day. I go to click on the TCC meeting and everything just breaks. You know, that's what happens. Oh, sorry. Kirk, could you mark me as present? I'm sure I missed roll call.
Yep, I got you, Daryl. Thank you.
Thank you.
If it,
Luba, is that you?
Yeah, good afternoon. This is Luba Zuiba joining you with VHP. Apologies for the
technical issues. So as Byron already has the slides pulled up on the screen, I think we'll go ahead and proceed with those. Byron, if you don't mind advancing to the next slide, please. So today, the focus of the overview again is the Comprehensive Transportation Plan. Earlier in the fall, you'll have seen some presentations from us on the Metropolitan Transportation Plan update. And next slide, please, Byron. So a Comprehensive Transportation Plan differs from the Metropolitan Transportation Plan in that it is a state requirement in North Carolina. It looks out approximately 30 years. It does not have to be as fiscally constrained in the way that an MTP plan is. So it's a little bit more of a vision plan. And it does have to ultimately be also approved by the North Carolina Board of Transportation. They especially review and adopt the maps that are created as part of the CTP plan update. And then including projects in the CTP gives the local jurisdictions an opportunity to submit those projects for funding through the state prioritization process in the future. So including a project in the CTP is one of those earliest opportunities to identify the project purpose and need and why it's important for the local community to improve this particular transportation area of concern. So it becomes just one of those many steps in terms of considering projects for prioritization to get them funded in the state transportation improvement program. And next step, please. Next slide. So because the CTP plan update was building on the MTP plan update process, we were able to utilize the some of the congestion analysis as well as the goals and objectives that were already developed as part of MTP 2045 process. We did hold a separate CTP public meeting webinar on October 22nd to review some of the earlier draft recommendations. We then were able to make some of the small changes to CTP. There were some small termini changes, additional development of the roadway inventory table for the appendix. We posted the draft document on December 18th for public comment. And then since then, we have also been collecting some of the comments from stakeholders and from members of the public. And here in a minute, I can talk to you about one of the public comments received in particular. But as far as some of the key changes that were made since the version posted on December 18th, there were a couple projects that have actually opened. They were scheduled for construction in the fall of 2020, and they have actually opened to traffic this fall. So, for example, a couple of the segments of the Northern Beltway that were earlier included in the draft CTP version, we changed them over to existing segments. So those were Northern Beltway Eastern segment, Phase B and C. There was also Idles Road extension project that has already opened to construction. And then in further reviewing the maps, we have also identified that there were a couple other projects that have opened recently. For example, the Medical Parkway in Kernersville that was shown on some of the earlier versions. So there were small changes to the CTP maps that were basically clean up to reflect that the projects that are already open to traffic no longer need to be reflected as recommended projects. They have also received some feedback regarding bicycle and pedestrian projects. So those were reviewed for termini and consistency and overlap and duplication. So some small corrections were made. We have received a couple comments from the town of Kernersville specifically regarding the alignment shown for Glen High Road extension. So that was updated, and also an update to the Linville Springs Road extension was made as well. And next slide, please. So to talk a little bit more about the region for the CTP plan update, the region basically matched the MTP plan update region. So we included Forsyth County as well as portions of Davidson, Davie, and Stokes counties. And of course, those counties that are outside of Forsyth County also are part of other CTPs from surrounding regions. So there is some question around consistency and overlapping areas as well. Next slide, please, Byron. When evaluating highway projects for selection, congestion, of course, was one of those key factors considered. So we were able to use the power travel demand model, the Piedmont Triad Regional Travel Demand Model to evaluate future volume to capacity and congestion concerns, economic development, accessibility and mobility, safety, other existing plans. Those were some of the additional factors considered, as well as taken into account public and stakeholder input, supporting ITS, Intelligent Transportation System recommendations, and considering geographic equity across the region. And next slide, please. Part of the maps prepared as part of the CTP document are CTP highway functional classification maps. So those indicate both existing and future facility types. And those are somewhat specific functional classification types that are required for CTPs in North Carolina. They don't always match with the federal functional classifications. Next slide, please. This slide just illustrates the location of the recently opened Northern Beltway segment that was scrubbed out from the recommended projects list in the CTP. And then also there's a fairly large section of I-40 that is recommended both for widening and ITS improvements in the CTP. So just wanted to highlight that project for you as well. Next step, please. Next slide. We have updated the interactive map as well, and that's posted on the study website. The study is still the same study we're using for MTP. That's wsmtpupdate.com, and from the front page, you can navigate to this interactive map. So if you select the CTP highway recommendations, actually those show up by default. You can navigate around and check on the different projects. We made a couple small updates again this week, taking into account the recent feedback received. You can turn on also a bicycle, pedestrian, transit layers. And next slide, please. This slide illustrates, kind of zooming in on the downtown Winston-Salem here, and that actually illustrates a project that has since been scrubbed out because it has already been open to traffic. That's the Research Parkway. So the dashed red line will no longer show up in the updated CTP maps that are now posted on the study website. Next slide, please. Looking at Kernersville area, you see the Macy Grove Road extension project that's already in this step and moving forward. Some modernization projects recommended for Main Street and Cherry Street, for example, and then a dashed red Lambeth Farm Lane extension project. Next, please. On this next slide, I wanted to highlight that we did recommend a new bridge over the Yadkin River west of Louisville-Clements area that would connect kind of that Bermuda Run area to Louisville and Clements. So we think that could be a helpful future connection to improve east-west connectivity and mobility in the west side of the region as that area around Bermuda Run continues to grow quite a bit. And also Baltimore Road extension and new interchange are identified in the CTP as well. Next slide, please. Looking at the CTP transit project selection, we were able to, again, talk to the local transit agencies as part of the MTP process, and then we took into account existing plans, public and stakeholder input, and analysis of existing ridership characteristics. So this might be a good time to go ahead and mention the comment received from a member of the public during our recent public comment period. So the comment received specifically had to do with the request for improving public transit services out to the eastward, the area out towards kind of Union Cross Road. There's some key industrial areas out there, for example, a large Caterpillar site and a Herbalife site where there's a high concentration of jobs in that area. So the person commenting felt like there's a need to improve public transit connectivity out to that area. So I have to note that in the draft CTP recommendations, we do show a Kernersville connector along Union Cross Road through that area that would pass by the Caterpillar site, and also there's another recommended CTP project. And if I was able to share the screen right now, I would pull it up on the interactive map. But Byron, unless you can pull it up, it's a little harder for me to highlight for you right here from the phone. So generally, expanding public transit services is a need across the region, has been noted, and just wanted to point out that there was a public comment received. And next, please. The public transportation maps also highlight some of the rail recommendations as well, in addition to fixed route transit services. Next slide, please. When going through bicycle and pedestrian project selection, previous plans were taken into account. We also reviewed kind of existing facilities for gaps, looked at some of the bicycle and pedestrian crash data and overlap between bicycle and pedestrian recommendations and regional activity centers and transit routes, and medical university campus locations. So all of those were taken into account. And then here most recently, we also did a little bit of cleanup to, again, check on overlapping projects, overlapping recommendations, consistency with termini. And next slide, please. One thing I have to note is that this region, you guys are fortunate in that you have done so much bicycle and pedestrian greenways planning that the maps look fairly busy. So again, the interactive map can be a friend if you're trying to zoom in on a particular part of the region to see what else is going on. But there certainly has been a number of regional bicycle and pedestrian plans, greenways plans, local bicycle and pedestrian plans. So quite a lot of recommendations there. And with the recent changes to the complete streets policy, it is important to also reflect some of those recommendations in your CTP, because that way, if a roadway project is funded and moves forward, then those complete streets elements can also be incrementally implemented as part of roadway projects as well. And next slide, please. I think the next map just kind of zooms in on downtown Winston-Salem. So the fainter lines are existing facilities and the darker, thicker lines are proposed facilities. If you look at greenways and multi-use paths, you will see that those show up both on bicycle and on pedestrian recommendation maps. So the two sets of maps are separate, but those multi-use path facilities were included on both. And I think the concluding slide just indicates that we have posted the draft document for public comment. The public meeting, again, was held back in October. And after we review this document with the TCC and then TAC today, if the document is approved, the eventual goal will be to also take the CTP maps for adoption at the North Carolina Board of Transportation for those documents to have the full standing in the North Carolina system. And with that, I'd like to open it up for questions.
Thank you, Luba. So Luba did a very good job of going through the changes and updates and what we're considering today. Does anybody have any questions for her or for anyone on staff? If not, this is an action item for consideration. Would anyone like to make a motion? We've got a quiet crowd today.
Scott Leonard, motion to approve.
Thank you, Scott.
Kelly Garvin, second.
Thank you, Kelly. So it's been properly moved and seconded. Kirk, can you call the roll, please, for the vote?
Kelly Bennett,
Yes.
Tanique,
Yes.
Daryl,
Yes, but knowing that we may have some amendments coming up, right?
okay. Kelly Garvin voted yes. Kirk votes yes. Lee Rollins,
Yes.
Scott Buffkin,
Yes.
Chris Jensen,
Yes.
Stacy Tolbert,
Yes.
Megan Garner,
Yes.
Scott Leonard voted yes, and Donna.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luba. Daryl, during your vote, you mentioned something about corrections or something coming. I know that there were some comments that NCDOT was making, and I thought the decision was that we would go ahead and adopt the CTP as it is, and any changes would come as an amendment at future meetings.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. I just wanted to clear that up for the rest of the committee.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all very much. We will move on to our next item, which is the consideration of the Winston-Salem Urban Area Metropolitan Planning Organization's Public Participation Plan. And this item will also have a public hearing at our Transportation Advisory Committee. So at this time, Victoria, if you would present the item, please.
Thank you. The MPO adopted its current public participation policy on July 19th, 2012. So it's definitely in need of an update. The public participation plan has been updated to a more user-friendly format. And situations that have arisen due to COVID-19 pandemic have been taken into account in this document, and provisions for virtual public interaction have been made. The update includes the latest federal act regarding transportation, a social media policy, and the contact list in the appendix has also been updated. A public review process was held for the required 45 days, and the public hearing will be held at the beginning of the TAC meeting. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Victoria. Are there any questions for Victoria? Hearing none, would anyone like to make a motion, please? This is an action item for consideration.
Lee Rollins, motion to approve.
Thank you, Lee. Is there a second?
Megan
Donna
Garner.
Woodson, I second.
I heard Megan and Donna. Or was it just Donna? Donna Woodson.
It was both. Either's fine with me.
All right. All right. I have Lee and Megan second. Where are we? Oh, can we do the vote, please, Kurt? Sorry.
Kelly Bennett,
Yes.
Tanique,
Yes.
Daryl,
Yes.
Kelly Garvin. Kirk votes yes. Lee Rollins voted yes. Scott Buffkin,
Yes.
Chris Jensen,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Megan voted yes. Scott Leonard,
Yes.
and Donna voted yes as well. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right, we have just two more items to vote on. So our next item is consideration of the fiscal year 2020 through 2029 MTIP amendments and modifications for the Winston-Salem urban area MPO. And Byron, will you please cover this item?
All right. Again, good afternoon, everyone. The Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program, or MTIP, is our local listing of all the projects programmed in our MPO area. This listing of projects must also match the state's Transportation Improvement Program, or STIP. As changes to projects are delivered to us, whether it be modifications, deletions, or additions, we add these projects into our MTIP so that it matches our STIP. The modifications, additions, and deletions presented before you were made available for 30 days per our public participation policy from October 20th, 2020 through November 19th, 2020. Only changes that were included are primarily along the Beltway and major projects within the state. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Byron. Are there any questions for Byron? All right, would anyone like to make a motion on this item, please?
Tanique,
Motion to approve.
I'm sorry, this is Stacy Toward. I did have one quick question that's stemming from our council that they wanted me to ask. In regards to, and Kelly, this might be a question for you, but in regards to our roundabout project on Louisville, Vienna, and Robin Hood Road, we noticed that it had changed, construction had changed, but we recently spoke with NCDOT about the go-ahead for us to start PE for that project. So I just wanted to make sure that the actual construction is the only portion that had changed from 2021 until 2022 for funding for that, and not necessarily delay on letting us go ahead and get started with that project for engineering and design.
Yeah, from what I can tell for that specific project, it's only the construction. If that's what this tip says, that's the construction is the one that's delayed, not the PE.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you very much.
Very good. Good. Any other questions? All right, at this time, would anyone like to make a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
All right, Kirk has moved to approve. Is there a second?
Stacy Talbert, second.
Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Stacy. It has been moved and seconded. Kirk, can you call the roll for the vote, please?
Kelly Bennett,
Yes.
Tanika,
Yes.
Daryl,
Yes.
Kelly Garvin,
Yes.
Kirk voted yes. Lee,
Yes.
Scott Buffkin,
Yes.
Chris Jensen,
Yes.
Stacy voted yes. Megan,
Yes.
Scott Leonard,
Yes.
and Donna. Donna, are you still there?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was still on mute.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone. All right. And our last item for consideration today is the consideration of a resolution of endorsement of targets for the safety performance measures established by NCDOT. Victoria, can you cover this item for us, please?
Yes, I can. On August 31st, 2020, the NCDOT set its 2021 targets for the state safety performance measures as required by the Federal Highway Administration. North Carolina MPOs have 180 days to either endorse the state's targets or adopt their own. The Winston-Salem urban area MPO is going to adopt the state's targets. The state sets 5 targets or goals, and they are as follows. 1, to reduce total fatalities by 4.2%, to reduce fatality rate by 4.35%, to reduce total serious injuries by 3.24%, to reduce serious injury rate by 3.35%, and finally, to reduce the total non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries by 3.65%. Are there any questions?
All right, thank you, Victoria. Were there any questions for her? All right, not hearing any questions. Would anyone like to make a motion, please?
Scott Leonard to approve.
Thank you, Scott. Is there a second?
Scott Buffkin, second.
Thank you, Scott. Scott and Scott have both made a motion and seconded. Kirk, can you call the roll for the vote?
Kelly Bennett,
Yes.
Tanika,
Yes.
Daryl,
Yes.
Kelly Garvin,
Yes.
Kirk votes yes. Lee,
Yes.
Scott Buffkin voted yes. Chris Jensen,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Scott Leonard voted yes, and Donna.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. So the next few items are items being presented for future action. Item number 8 is the review of the draft fiscal year 2021 through 2022 Unified Planning Work Program for the Winston-Salem Urban Area MPO. Kelly, will you please present this item?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everybody. As was mentioned, the item before you is a review of the draft FY 21-22 Unified Planning Work Program for our MPO. All MPOs that have been designated as transportation management areas are required to develop an annual UPWP in accordance with Federal Transit Administration, in coordination with Federal Transit Administration. Each year, we are required to develop this document for transportation and transit planning. The UWP identifies what transportation and transit planning projects and work tasks will be completed during the fiscal year, and an estimated amount of federal and state highways transit planning funds. What estimated amount of federal and state highway and transit planning funds will be used to complete the tasks. So attached in your document for your review is the UWP with all of the corresponding tables. And then along with that, and as part of our UPWP, the Village of Clements had requested $40,000 in planning funds for their bicycle and pedestrian study, which represents 80% of the total. They will be responsible for 20%, which is the match of $10,000, making the total amount for that study $50,000. Along with that request, several of the changes in this document are simply moving studies that have not yet begun that we're estimating will probably start in FY22 from prior year to fiscal year 22 for clarity purposes. The document will go through our public participation policy. NCDOT will have a chance to review it and provide their comments, and it will come back for action in March. Along with that, I would like to let staff know that we have some funding available for studies. So if you anticipate needing to do a study for your community for fiscal year 22, please let me know, email me as soon as possible. But I'm going to send out an email here between to the end of today and tomorrow, just to remind everybody about the opportunity to apply for some funds for a study for the next fiscal year. I'm available for questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Kelly? Thank you, Kelly. Oh, well, I did have a comment, Kelly. Did you give them a deadline?
February 10th.
Okay.
I will send it in an email.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, thank you. We will move on to our next information item then. Review of a checklist certifying the Winston-Salem urban area MPO's transportation planning process for fiscal year 2019 through 2020. Kelly, if you could present this item, please.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Thank you again. As mentioned, the item before you is a review of the checklist certifying that the MPO's transportation planning process for certifying the MPO's transportation planning process for FY22. The MAP Act requires that North Carolina Department of Transportation, as well as all MPOs in the state, to certify to the Federal Highway Administrations and to Federal Transit Administration that their transportation planning processes are addressing the major issues of the urban area and also are being conducted in accordance with all applicable provisions of federal law. To guide this process, NCDOT provides the attached checklist, and staff review the checklist and provide a response to each item. Staff believes that the MPO's transportation planning process is adequately addressing the major issues in the urban area and is being conducted in accordance with all applicable provision of the law. In the fall of 2016, FHWA and FTA conducted a formal review of our MPO. The latest formal review was actually in December of 2020. The report is still pending, but as of 2016, when the last review was carried out, we were in compliance. We will make the report from our latest review available as soon as possible. But attached, as I mentioned, is the checklist filled out by staff. I'm available to answer any question. This item will come back for action in February.
All right. Any questions for Kelly? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, we will move on to our next item, which is item number 10, review of the fiscal year 2020 through 2029 MTIP amendments and modifications to the Winston-Salem Urban Area MPO. Byron, can you present this item, please?
No problem. Again, as it was mentioned earlier, the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program, or MTIP, is a comprehensive list of all our transportation projects programmed for the Winston-Salem urban area. This document must match the state's Transportation Improvement Program, or STIP. As changes are made to the STIP, we would make those changes and they are reflected in our MTIP. These changes could be additions of projects, modifications of existing projects, or amendments to existing projects. Per our public participation policy, the amendments before you were provided to the public for 30 days to review, starting December 21st, 2020 and ending today, January 21st, 2021. The majority of the amendments included in this packet are both state as well as a lot of local projects that are being amended due to funding and changes in project schedules. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions about any of the projects or amendments.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Byron? Okay. Well, hearing none, we will then move on to item number 11, which is to review the Yakima Valley Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan. Matthew?
Thank you, Tanique. Good afternoon, everybody. The item for you is information item related to an endorsement of the Yakima Valley Regional Bicycle Plan. So for the past 15 months or so, the Piedmont Triad Regional Council has worked on a regional bicycle plan for this area. And the counties included in that study include 3 of the counties in our MPO. And so we, staff from the MPO and from communities throughout the MPO, have worked with PTRC, Piedmont Triad Regional Council, on this plan. And the goals for the plan are really to increase transportation choices in the region, improve health and wellness, and promote bike-related tourism and economic development. So one of the key benefits of this plan is really the fact that it builds upon planning efforts that our MPO and our member jurisdictions have undertaken already. So it builds upon the CTP, and it builds upon the Winston-Salem Bicycle Master Plan and other plans that are on the horizon for other communities. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jesse Day with the Piedmont Triad Regional Council and Brianna Hofferman from the Piedmont Land Conservancy.
Good.
Thank you for joining us.
Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, great. Haven't used WebEx in several months, so good to be with you today. Thank you, Chairwoman Cullett, for having us today. Brianna is here to talk about another opportunity, I think, for the MPO area that Piedmont Legacy Trails is working on with some trail guides. So I'll get into that after a brief presentation on the Yakima Valley Regional Bike Plan. It may be very hard to see there, but I've put in the chat box a link to the website. So if you want to kind of take a look at the areas of the 150 plus page plan that interest you, you can go ahead and do that. But for today, I wanted to at least include this executive summary. And so, Matthew, thanks for the kind of giving the brief overview and kind of the purpose. It's multi-county. We got 3 different NCDOT divisions. So we've got 9, 11, and 12. And so the other counties that we've included are Surrey, Yadkin, and parts of Iredell County. So Scott Leonard and Davidson County, we've got another regional bike plan that's a few years older, the Central Park Bike Plan. And so this really fills in the Piedmont Triad in terms of some regional bike planning efforts, or at least a good portion of it between this Yakima Valley Regional Bike Plan and the Central Park Bike Plan. But like Matthew said, a lot of the work, and also Leiva, I think, touched on this, a lot of the work had already been done from the network side. And so as with any plan, we've laid down the purpose, goals, and vision. We got about 200 plus responses from that multi-county region. About 85% said really need to invest in bicycle accommodation and networks. About 63% of the total respondents said we need additional investment in those as well. And so, also we've got some, economic development numbers that have been included there that you've probably seen in terms of, $1 of investment for bicycle pedestrian infrastructure returns about $1.72 in economic benefits. And so the economic health benefits, I think, are there, but they're quantified in this plan, and you'll see them repeated in other plans. And so, additionally, kind of an add-on piece that we've done, and Byron, if you wouldn't mind moving to the next page, just looking at our region, that will kind of show what we've covered. Again, a little bit hard to see here. Let's move into the Forsyth County cut sheet here, just so we can get a little more detail on the improvements in Forsyth County in the MPO area. So, okay, there we go. One of the things we also provided, if you want to take a peek on the webpage, is some tourism routes. So for each county, we've got some potential, using existing facilities that are already on the ground. How can we promote cycling to that? So that's something additional that kind of play into what Brianna and I will talk about on the Winston-Salem Trail Guides in just a minute. And so just looking at the network a little bit, you can see there were about 17 priority projects that were in the Winston-Salem Bike Plan. And so all those are included within the city limits there. Obviously, it's pretty hard to see even at this scale because there are so many proposals there. But a couple of additional pieces, I think, to highlight, maybe on the peripheral, mostly for the peripheral counties. We've got some recommendations there to connect Clemens and Bermuda Run, I think, is one area that we wanted to highlight and did so in the plan on US Highway 158. You've got some trail accommodation on both sides of the river that are either being constructed or closely being constructed in the pipeline, both on Bermuda Run and Clemens side and Tanglewood Park. But what about the cross-county connections there? So we highlighted some key opportunities there on US Highway 158 for accommodation. I think the other thing, too, to mention, Ellie was talking a little bit earlier about public transportation, but there's also an opportunity on a rail line that's been abandoned for about 20 years that goes out to Clemens. And so is there an opportunity either to convert that to rail trail or build rail with trail if that line was to open up? And so that's an opportunity there that's also highlighted in the plan. It just talks a little bit about how do you accommodate trail along a rail line and do it safely. As mentioned, there's a lot of recommendations going further out. And what we tried to do is take the Winston-Salem Bike Plan. I need to give acknowledgement to Alta Planning and Design, who did all the work. And so they're much more familiar with the recommendations and everything that's written in this document. But at the Regional Council and the Northwest Piedmont RPO, we sort of helped with the steering committee process and the survey process. But there's many more recommendations, and what we try to do is tie what was developed just a year and a half ago or so in the 2019 bicycle plan out into those neighboring counties, Stokes County, Davie, Yadkin County, and really make those connections. So there's probably not a lot new here for y'all to see, but I did want to highlight a couple of those key additional things like the rail line opportunity and the connection between Clemens and Bermuda Run. And so I'm trying to think what else to highlight here. Again, I have lots of great recommendations on programs and policies. You'll see in the executive summary, we have kind of an implementation framework. A lot of things that we've talked about here, getting projects into the MTIP, into the CTP. I will say we've probably got more, we definitely have more in this regional bike plan that then would make it into a CTP. Some of the, there's some counties, Yadkin, Surrey, and Davie County that are working on a CTP in conjunction in a parallel timeline process, maybe a few months behind the Winston-Salem MPO CTP process. But we have had some hard discussions with through that process, really around the cost of implementing complete streets and trying to actually reduce the network that we've developed in this plan, not quite putting that fully into the CTP process. And I think Leva touched on that a little bit about the importance of if these are priority networks and we want to look at all the opportunities to fund these, make sure they are in a comprehensive transportation plan. So I didn't want to leave my remarks today without mentioning any of that. That we've had some difficult discussions in terms of how do we incorporate as much of that as we can into the CTP process in that multi-county area. I will pause there and then just see if there's any questions before I move to the Winston-Salem Trail Guide. And one other thing to mention, I think there is a draft resolution either in today's packet or for next month's packet in support of kind of the plan and all its recommended network programs and policies going forward. And I understand we'll look at an action item at a future meeting.
Yes, it would be for the next, for a future meeting in February, I think.
Okay, great. Thanks, Denny.
Mm-hmm.
Well, great. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I did want to introduce this concept, and we've got Brianna Hefferman, who's our Piedmont Legacy Trails coordinator. So Piedmont Legacy Trails is a combined effort between the Piedmont Tribe Regional Council and Piedmont Land Conservancy to really promote connecting our communities across the Piedmont Triad, supporting trail development, whether it's being led in the public realm through communities or on a volunteer basis. And one of the neat guides that we put together, or working to put together, is the Winston-Salem Trail Guide. And we've got some examples of trail guides that we've already put there, but you've got about 40 plus greenways in the MPO area. And what we're trying to do is kind of tell some stories about that and drive use of these sites. And so really the ask today is anybody interested in helping to develop these guides, where as you can see, there's different entities that are putting together some of that infrastructure across the MPO area, across the city and the neighboring towns. But we want to make sure that we're getting all the right information in there. If anyone wants to go ahead and check that out, I might ask Brianna if she can put in a link to some of the existing trail guides that we put together. Randolph County, just down in the Asheboro area, we've already put one together for that. So you could take a peek at kind of what that looks like to see what the vision of that is. But really it is to kind of, polish up some of these gems that we have, promote use by citizens, but also visitation as well. And I think it's just going to be a neat tool as we go forward and driving trail use. And I'm sure you guys have heard how and seen how well used our trails have been during the pandemic. 50%, 100% increase in trail use between 19 and 20 in a lot of our communities across the state and country. So we're trying to highlight all types, as you can see, as well as water trails on there. And it looks like Brianna's just put a link into some of the trail guides we've already put together. But the target date, and I think we've got a sample one from Bethania. If we want to move to the next slide, but the target date for kind of getting this out and completed with Brianna's time is mid-April. So we've got some opportunity there, but she's very interested in having some assistance to make sure that she's got all the correct information there in terms of features to highlight, cultural and natural features, as well as maybe some historical or other interesting things about these trails. So this is kind of a last minute addition to the agenda, but I wanted to take the opportunity to do it since it's such a product that we're really proud of it, the Piedmont Legacy Trails, in terms of putting together for our region, in particular Winston-Salem and the neighboring towns.
So as we put this guide together, I would love to have a crew to review all of the elements that we have here. So any of the descriptions at the bottom, it's hard to see, but there's a little an accessibility section for wheelchair users. We have maps as well as distances, addresses of trailheads. So we're hoping to make a comprehensive guide that has everything you would need to go to a trail for the first time. So if anyone is interested in being on a kind of a review committee and a committee to help us promote this product, maybe you could put your name and email in the chat box, and I'll take note of that and reach out to you separately. And if anyone has any questions about this effort, please go ahead.
Any questions, comments for Jesse and Brianna?
Okay, thanks.
Jesse, Brianna, thank you very much for joining us and for sharing the plan with us. I'm sure you will receive some feedback from those on this committee. We've just got a quiet group today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. All right, we will move on to our next item, which is item number 12. The review of the Federal Transit Administration Formula Programs 5307, 5339, and 5310 funding allocations for the Winston-Salem urban area federal fiscal year 2021. And I'll cover that. You do have 3 action items or information items that will be presented at our March meeting. The first one is related to our Section 5307 funding. And the reason that we brought this to this committee in January, at the time we prepared the items, FTA had not identified or had not made apportionments for this funding, and we did not want to have any delays once apportionments were made. And so FTA has announced the dollar amount available to our MPO for each of these funding categories, and I'll provide that amount for you. So for our Section 5307 funds, in fiscal year 2020, we received $5,386,052. For our fiscal year 2021, FTA has announced that $5,218,133 are available. We still have 3 transit agencies who are eligible for these funds, and we will have a meeting with these agencies upcoming in the next month or so that we will have an action item in March to present. We will also be required to advertise the programming of projects for 30 days, which is why the delay would be until March for an action item. Any questions about the first one? Okay, I'll go to the next, which is our Section 5339 Bus and Bus Facilities Grant Program. In fiscal year 2020, the Winston-Salem urban area received $654,298. FTA has announced that for fiscal year 2021, there's $580,567 available for this funding category. And so this will be the same. We will advertise the programming of projects for 30 days and then have an item in March for the committee to consider for approval. And then our third funding is our Section 5310 funds. In fiscal year 2020, the Winston-Salem urban area received $365,651. And in fiscal year 2021, we will be eligible to receive $369,013. This item will probably be delayed a little bit longer because we usually have a call for projects. These are funds that we award to subrecipients to help supplement services throughout our MPO. And so because of our call for projects process, we probably will not be able to announce or request the approval of award for at least another 3 to 4 months. So that's all the information that I have on those 3 items. I can answer any questions that anyone has about any of the funding categories and or any questions that you have. All right. Hearing no questions, then I will move on to our staff reports. So the first would be our MPO staff report, and that's Kelly. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm slow. Sorry about that. I was thinking that was the attachment, Kelly, that you usually have for the projects. So the first staff report is actually NCDOT Division 9 transportation project updates. Was Pat or Fred ever able to join us?
I don't think so. I don't see them on the line. And Pat has been emailing me, I guess probably from his tablet, but.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're back on.
There he is.
All right, Pat, was there anything that you wanted to share with the group?
No, the project update, of course, is self-explanatory unless anybody has any questions. I did want to mention to everyone about the recommendations that came out from the NC First Commission. Kelly, were you able to get that emailed out to everybody?
No, not yet. Not yet.
All right. So, Kelly will be sending out the link to this full report. It's pretty large. Just recommend that everybody really look at that and look at the recommendations that are being forwarded to the Secretary and ultimately to the General Assembly. Really some good information in that report, and hopefully it'll provide a roadmap for transportation funding moving forward. So unless anybody has questions, that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Pat, and welcome. It's good to hear from you.
Thank you. Good to be back.
All right. Our next item is the Winston-Salem Urban Area Transportation Project Update. Kelly.
Yes, ma'am. Nothing beyond what's in the packet. I know that we are slowly starting back up projects, and I've been working with Division 9, but also with the STIP, I guess, unit on project lists and priorities and funding availability and all that good stuff. So if anybody has any questions or anything that's in the table that's not accurate that you wish to change, just let me know.
Very good.
I did want to mention, that I just received, and I think I shared that with you, that funding was made available for CMAC for this year. We haven't had funding for CMAC last year. So be prepared, everybody, to get an email from me probably next week about a call for project.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. All right, our next is NCDOT Transportation Planning Update. Daryl?
Hi, can you guys hear me? First of all, I'm having problems.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks. So a short update, while the due date for the recent NCDOT bicycle helmet initiative has passed, I'll just mention that there was an application period for the bicycle helmet initiative that needed to be submitted by the January 15th. And I only mention it just so that if you're interested to kind of start getting your ideas together or whatever, and you can submit that for next year around this time or 11 months from now. And this is an initiative where NCDOT distributes helmets to government, non-government agencies conducting bike safety events. And you can apply for 25, 50, 75, or 100 helmets. So there's that. And also there's a Governor Highway Safety Program funding that is available. They're accepting applications starting January 1st, beginning of this month, until January 31st. These are grants open to nonprofit organizations, local state law enforcement, hospitals, state agencies, and other groups proposing data-driven projects that advance traffic safety. Grants are for the 2022 federal fiscal year, which would begin October 1st of this year. So if you're interested, please contact me, or you can look online for the Governor Highway Safety Program. That concludes my update.
Very good. Thank you, Daryl. Were there any questions for Daryl? All right. We've got Piedmont Triad Regional Council of Governments update. I don't recall anyone here for that. So Forsyth County OEAP, air quality update. I don't recall anyone here for that either. Bicycle and pedestrian facilities project update, Matthew?
Yeah, thank you, Tanique. Just a quick note for everybody about NCDOT's Watch for Me NC campaign. So NCDOT is accepting applications for participation in the Watch for Me program again. And those applications are due by 5 p.m. on February 1st. And just to remind you all, the Watch for Me program is an education and encouragement and community engagement program aimed at reducing the number of pedestrian and bicycle injuries and deaths through and crashes. And communities that are participating in the program receive resources, printed materials, and digital materials in order to share and promote those safety and education messages. So I would encourage people to at least look that up. There's a link in the update so you can learn more about the program and apply if it's appropriate. So thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. The Winston-Salem Transit Authority update, Donna?
Yes, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Don't really have a lot to add to the update that's provided for you. Just shows the ridership. I will add that Winston-Salem Transit Authority did take a dip and a reduction in our ridership as it relates to COVID, but we are on a kind of an upswing now. We've seen it gradually gaining ridership to go back to where we were the latter part of 2019, early part of 2020. Other than that, we are continuing our services that we're providing and looking for some relief from COVID, as everyone else is, I'm quite sure. But I don't have any other updates at this time unless anyone has any questions for me.
All right, thank you. Piedmont Authority for Regional Transportation. I don't recall anyone from PART here today. So Davidson County Transportation, Richard?
Good afternoon. I don't have anything to add to the report, but available for questions.
Thank you. Title VI compliance update, Marlene?
Good afternoon. There's nothing to update at this moment.
All right, very good. And then our MPL calendar of activities, Byron?
Nothing here to update, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you, Byron. And then our last item is the ethics liaison update, Kirk?
Thank you, Tanique. Just a couple of things to make everyone aware of. For those who don't know, we've only had 2 changes to TAC membership as a result of the last election cycle. Of course, our Vice Chairman, Dan Bessie, is no longer on the Winston-Salem City Council. So Council Member Robert Clark, who was previously an alternate, has been nominated by the mayor to take his seat. And Council Member John Larson will be the new alternate for Winston-Salem. Zach Krotz is no longer with the Davidson County Board of Commissioners, and Commissioner James Shores will be replacing him for their nominee. So those are the only changes. The other thing I want to point out is it's 2021, so we're at the start of a new ethics year again. So Everyone who was on the commission previously has kind of a grace period until April 15th. I'll be sending out some information to TAC members in the next few days, reminding them to go ahead and complete that 2021 filing. And I've reached out to our 2 new members kind of offline to get them started in that process. So with that being said, Tanique, I don't have any further updates.
All right, very good. Does anybody have any questions for anyone who's made a presentation or anything? All right, well, our next meeting is scheduled for February 18th. And if there's nothing else for the good of the group, I move for adjournment of this meeting.
Move approval.
Very good. I don't think we need to do a call vote for that. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Before you log off, we will be recognizing our former council member Bessie at our TAC meeting. So hopefully you'll have an opportunity to join us for that meeting, at least for that part. Other than that, we will see you all later. Have a good day.